Hey guys, welcome back. First ride of the season here in the woods on my 98. Figured I'd take this time to do a walk around and show you some of the modifications that are on this. I've had this bike since July of 99. So my 19th birthday I picked this bike up, and it's been my go-to. When I found it, it was so I found it in 99. It's a 98, and the guy that owned it before me, older guy, just basically rode it around in his yard, and it had very low hours on it. And I think I paid $4,000 for it then. It was actually in the penny saver. It was before Marketplace and actually searching online really for stuff like that. So it's just an ad in the penny saver, no pictures or anything, and you have to kind of take the person's word for it. And luckily this one was in excellent shape. So picked it up and did the basic modifications, the Gordon mods they're known as in the XR400 community. It's basically just rejetting the carb to take the dead spot off right off idle. There's like a known dead spot on these bikes from the factory. Richens up the carb, and you unplug the air box by taking the snorkel out and putting a uni air filter on it, and uncorking the exhaust as well. I just left the stock spark arrestor on and have a couple, I don't know if it's going to be able to see them on the video here, but a couple small holes drilled in the spark arrestor just to open it up a little bit more. And just doing those three modifications made a pretty big difference with throttle response. And also the other part of the Gordon mods was to take off the headers, and on the inside of the headers there's sometimes an excess amount of weld from the factory that kind of hinders that flow a little bit. So you take them off, just grind off a little bit in there, it just kind of increases the flow. It's almost like port and polishing a little bit, I guess you could say, but it's more crude than that. But it opens up the headers a little bit for a little added throttle response when you do the rest of the Gordon mods to compensate for the freer flowing exhaust. And aside from that, never done any kind of other engine mods on this. This is the original top end on this bike. Still doesn't really smoke at all. It's got good compression. Never had a reason to tear it down. It's not making any kind of noise, cam chain noise or anything. So I'll probably just ride this as long as I can with the way it is, because it runs great. A couple things I did do to it after a little while was put the Mikuni pumper carb on it, and that was a pretty big difference in throttle response. The stock was fine, I didn't have any problem with it, but I was able to get a good deal on the pumper from XR's Only on a Black Friday special one year, so I figured I'd pull the trigger on it, and I'm glad I did. Makes it a little easier to start. I never really had a problem starting this bike, even with the stock carb. You just got the procedure down, but this actually makes it a little easier. Definitely more throttle response, snappier. It'll off the front wheel a lot easier over stuff with just snapping the throttle wide open, or not even wide open, just snapping it open. Front tire come up a lot easier. It does suck down the fuel a little bit more, obviously. I noticed I'm filling up more often, but that's the expense of more performance. What else? I put this on here like over 20 years ago. Scott Summers used to have a line of products that he had, performance stuff for bikes. Fork brace on this one is a must-have if you're going to keep the stock forks, because they're kind of flexy when you get into the heavy-duty stuff. You start pushing it in the trail, in ruts and rocks and stuff, you can feel that flex. So I got this fork brace, which made a big difference. It's actually missing the plastic guards, which I just haven't put them back on. There's plastic guards that go right over here, and that made a nice change in the feel and suspension. It is at the stock spring rate, still, so it's plush, really plush. It's good for trails and technical tight stuff, but when I'm out in the open areas and the whoops and all that, it's no fun with that fork. So that's the trade-off for its trail manners. It's great in the woods and like this kind of stuff. Single track, any kind of small trail junk, it soaks up really well. What else did I do to this thing? So I also did just the basic protector pieces, like this D-Vol brake guard, the D-Vol skid plate, which is like overkill here. But I've had those parts on for 20 years at least, a little over 20 years on this bike. Oh yeah, the Scott Summers also has a case saver, which actually this saved at one time when the chain did pop off years ago. You can see the remnants of the chain hitting that. It saved the case from getting ripped open. So that was a well worth investment there. And also I got the D-Vol rear brake guard as well, and the aluminum chain guide. I'm not sure what brand that is, but I've had those parts on here forever, and it's been super reliable trail bike. I did race this bike a couple times back when I first got it. Did a couple hair scrambles with it, and ended up placing pretty decent. You know, I was kind of a novice at that time for the racing side of things, so did pretty well, but it just beat the heck out of the bike. I would end up with the brake lever wrapped around the pegs and the shifter all bent up, and I just didn't want to abuse it that much, so I kind of stopped doing the racing thing. And then a couple years ago, I took the skid plate off and noticed that you're not going to be able to see a lot with the skid plate on it, but the frame was completely rotten on the bottom. Just from my stupidity, when I first got that skid plate, I had put an old bicycle inner tube on the bottom of the frame in between the skid plate to try to eliminate the vibration that would happen. And that was a dumb move because there's little drain holes on the frame that it wasn't allowing any moisture getting into the frame to get out. So 20 years of moisture and water built up in mud and stuff caked in there just rotted the bottom of that out. And took it apart and saw how bad it was. And luckily my friend does a lot of metal work, works in the military, and has got access to a lot of nice equipment. He's a great welder, good mechanic, and he knew how to fix that up. So I gave it to him, and he basically cut the bad stuff out. I bought a pipe, roughly the same size diameter, and he was able to cut that in half and kind of weld it up to the bottom of the existing tube. I'm going to try to put some pictures up because I did take some pictures of that process. He sent me some pictures too. Here's a better angle of it. That's actually like the bottom half of the pipe welded on to the good parts of the frame on this bike. So did a heck of a job. It's holding up great. It saved this bike from me having to look for another frame or something. So I'm really happy with what he did there with me, with for that on there because it was bad. I'll put some pictures up. Yeah, other than that, it's just the basic maintenance on this bike that I've done to keep it going. A couple years ago too, I guess it was the same time we were working on the frame. I freshened up all the plastics, and yeah, the fuel tank's getting kind of crusty again looking, but I had this really white looking. It's tough to keep a white fuel tank, plastic fuel tank clean because of the way the gas like seeps through the pores on the plastic. So a little bit of simple green on there, we'll get that whiter again. But got the graphics. These are actually 97 graphics. I like these better than the 98s, so I got these ones. And that's pretty much it for modifications on here. Oh yeah, I got these Renthal bars too. I forget which ones these are. I think it's the CR high bend replicas or whatever they're called. I don't know, but they work great. And I've had these bark busters, these Moose bark busters for 20 plus years too. So this bike's been super reliable, does everything I need it, and I can't see myself ever selling it. So gonna put some more riding footage up of this coming summer, and I'll include some in this video too. I'm just going easy because wearing tennis shoes back here, not the smartest thing. Just to do a quick little first ride video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. I'm gonna definitely have more on this bike and my other 400 and all the bikes in the fleet. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Here's a starting procedure for this bike that I use. Pull the decompression lever in. Give it a couple kicks with just partial throttle. Line it up at top dead center. Give it one good kick with a little bit of gas. Usually starts right up. They also geared this bike down one tooth in the front on the sprocket. Gives it a lot more low end grunt for this tight stuff. So I can go through here in second gear, no problem. There's the gear. More deer. Try not to get muddy. Got tennis shoes on. Old broken down cabin.